Actively managing your personal brand is critical if you want to make a significant impact in the areas of your life important to you. I've spent most of my life working in the world of branding products. More recently, I've been exploring the world of personal branding and wrote a book on this, Brand New, Brand You. And the podcast has come out of this as a way to share first-hand experiences from some of Australia's most recognised personal brands. Victor Dominello is a former senior New South Wales Government Minister, best known for pioneering the Minister for Customer Service and Digital role globally in 2019. Recognised by The Australian in July 22 as one of Australia's top 100 innovators, he served 12 years in Cabinet, leading portfolios including digital, government, innovation, finance and Aboriginal affairs. His leadership transformed public service delivery in New South Wales through initiatives such as the Department of Customer Service, Service New South Wales and the Digital Restart Fund, earning international acclaim. Before entering politics, Victor practiced law for over a decade, becoming a partner in a commercial law firm. Victor, thank you so much for the opportunity to sit and have a chat. It's a real privilege, and I never imagined that we'd have this opportunity. But in your busy schedule, to be able to find that time is something that I really appreciate, and I think all our viewers will appreciate as well.
Oh, thanks,
so welcome.
Garry. No, thank you, and thank you to you. You've given me so much counselling and advice over many, many years. So no, the least I could do.
Works both ways, Victor.
Yeah, it does.
And Victor, you are in many ways a name, and I call you a brand within the marketplace of New South Wales, and I think internationally, and certainly the introduction reflects that. But you had to start somewhere, and where was that journey? Where did that journey start that really helped you to start building your name, your reputation, your brand?
Well, in my political journey, the brand, the digital, the customer service, the data brand, it started when I was a Minister for Aboriginal Affairs. Like, when you walk back and have a look at my inaugural speech, you'd realise there's not one word reference to data, digital, customer experience, nothing like that. It was just a pretty vanilla type inaugural speech. What happened was in 2011, I got sworn in as Minister for Aboriginal Affairs. In about 2012 or 13, there was an incidence of child sexual abuse in a remote community, and we had a number of ministers get together to say we need to do something, because it wasn't just one department that was responsible. There was a whole host of departments. There was health there, police, justice, education, family community services, myself in Aboriginal Affairs. We all got together, and I remember vividly the Department of Health Secretary saying to the group of ministers, well, look, ministers, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 4 children present with clear, to health institutions or facilities, with clear evidence of abuse. Then police would come up, well, ministers, in the last week, we've had 2 reports of abuse. And I remember saying to education at the time, look, I'm not a data scientist, so I'm a lawyer by trade, litigation lawyer by trade, but I know a little bit to know that, the lead indicators, a lot of the lead indicators would be in your backyard, like truancy, for example. Like if a kid's not at school today and not at school yesterday, maybe that's a red flag. Oh, yes, Minister, you're right, Minister. I said, well, okay, well, great. Well, we got the reports from health, we got the reports from police. Tell us how many kids are not at school today, which of those kids were not at school yesterday, the day before that, who are living in the same community, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, yes, Minister, great questions. We'll get back to you in a month. I said, a month? Like, you can't press something on the keyboard now and give me an Excel spreadsheet. Like right now, this is 2012. Oh no, we've got to get data from here, data from there. And I was thinking to myself, like, these kids in a month, like, how many are going to fall off the cliff? And when they fall off a cliff, you don't give them a blue pill or a red pill and you get rid of child sexual abuse. Like, this is intergenerational trauma. It carries them for life in many cases. And I swore to myself at that point, I will, like, for every day that I have got the privilege of being a member of parliament, let alone a minister, I am going to digitise the bejesus out of everything I touch, because we need more visibility, subject to privacy, security and ethics and everything else, to make sure that we absolutely improve the lot of others, particularly those that are vulnerable. So that's really what started the journey.
So obviously you grew up in an environment that taught you values and principles. Did that come about from home, or where did you actually get that sort of grounding and upbringing?
Yeah, my mum and dad, like my heroes, and my mum and my dad, like they were the greatest people I had the privilege to know. I was so lucky to be born to them. Yeah. And they're both literally, Dad's passed away some time ago now, but they're both earth angels. Like, they're just amazing, quietly spoken, just good, decent people. And, they, hopefully, if I'm a quarter of what they are, I'm doing okay. And they just, brought us kids up with those type of values, particularly looking after those less fortunate.
Yeah. And did you grow up with less fortunate sort of communities, in the sense of, not necessarily you, but did you mix with those type of...
Well, I came from, my mum and dad came out to Australia when they were 10, typical migrant story, worked hard. My mates spent time at the beach. I was spending time picking carnations in my dad's farm and mum's farm. It was pretty tough. It was struggle street all the time. Went to a local Catholic school. But we were okay, but we worked really, really hard.
Sure.
And poor mum and dad really struggled and worked their proverbial hearts out to put food on the table. Yeah, I went to a Catholic school. A lot of the values about looking after others.
Absolutely.
Absolutely drummed in.
The reason I ask you is, I can remember growing up going to the Far West Children's Home where, Indigenous kids were there, and you actually saw a totally different lifestyle and a different perspective. And that sort of grounds us all in recognising that there's diversity within society. Some are luckier than others.
Absolutely. And I remember when I got the blessing to have that portfolio, like, I'll never forget when Barry said, can you do Aboriginal affairs? I said, Barry, I can barely spell Aboriginal. Like, I've got no connection to the community. I don't think there was an Aboriginal student that went to my school. Why are you giving this to me? But thank God he did. It was one of the greatest blessings, because the very first thing, I was so nervous when I became a minister. It took me a number of years to get my confidence up. But the lessons I learnt from the Aboriginal elders were so generous to me in their time. And just learning the art of story from them, and realising, well, if I cannot communicate, if I can't tell a story, then you're not going to get reforms through. You're not going to get policies. You're not going to bring people on board. So I just learnt so much from them.
From where you started your career, if I can put it that way, in government, and where you are now, you were recognised for what you did then. I would say that you were branded, if I could put it that way, as the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs.
Yep, for 4 years. Yep.
But if we scroll along, my recollection, or my last recollection of your government portfolio, I look at you as Mr. Customer Service and how much you did for the New South Wales and international community.
Yeah, it's a big
gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap. But again, the burning platform was not the digital. It's not. It's people see me as the data monkey inside. They used to make joke, it's the data monkey inside the cabinet, asking. Because I used to always, after that example in Aboriginal Affairs, where's the data coming from? Is it real time? Is it 6 months old, 12 months old? I'm not interested. Why aren't we getting real time? Like, I would constantly pester every document that came into cabinet. So they saw me as the data monkey. And they knew exactly where I was going, and I didn't care. And same with digital. Why is this not digitized? Yada, yada, yada. So the journey around the customer experience was not for data or for the sake of digital or tech. It's to improve outcomes.
Exactly.
So when you peel it all back, it's all about the human experience.
Yeah.
And how do we use government services or evolve it to make sure we get better outcomes?
Well, I think you brought the word customer service to government, which had been certainly not there ever.
It's demonised inside of government, because in government people aren't seen as customers. You're citizens. But I'd say to the departments, okay, well, that's fine. We can call it citizen service. But what about tourists? What about refugees? What about visa holders? What about businesses? None of these are citizens. Do they get a different type of service or a different quality of service? Customer gives a sense of empowerment or agency, because the customer is always right. You've got it's valued proposition.
Absolutely.
It's not about just a name of only a customer because you're buying services. No, it's a mindset. And that was the big shift. We're giving people agency. There are some departments that are now saying, no, we're not going to call you customer anymore. We're going to call you passenger. And again, if that is a metaphor for going backwards, I can't think of a better one. We do not want people to be passengers. No. We want them to be co-owners, co-creators.
Participators.
But better co-creators of the services that, that's what future government's about. We go from slave to serf to subject to citizen to prosumer to co-creator. It's about empowering the individual.
And look, I couldn't agree with you more. I take the view that everyone should be serving each other in some way.
Absolutely.
And the problem is that when you have an interaction with another human being and you treat them anything other than helping to serve, then you start to cause the diminution of a relationship.
I agree. And I love the way you phrase that, because it's about a relationship. I have a bit of a beef when they're called services, because that's, to me, transactional.
It is.
And when people say, Services New South Wales, no. It's Service New South Wales, because services is, we'll provide a number of services, number of transactions. Service is the way we provide it.
Exactly right. So, do you see yourself as a brand?
Good question. I never thought I'd see myself as a brand, but in the last 5 or 6 years, particularly during the COVID period, where I was part of the COVID crisis cabinet, I'd be in front of the TV a bit, and people saw me as, he's the app guy, or the customer service, he's Mr. Service New South Wales, or so I started seeing myself more as a brand then.
And what about today?
Yeah, more so now.
Yeah?
Yeah, more so now, because as I travel around the world, I was in Mongolia doing some work with the World Bank. I couldn't believe it. They were trying to build an equivalent of a Service Mongolia type thing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I go up and meet the director there, and he said, can I have a photo with you? And I said, yeah, sure. In brackets, who am I? Why would you want a photo with me? He said, because we did a case study on the best approach to government service delivery, and Service New South Wales was the first case study we did. So this is Mongolia, of all places. I can't think of anything more remote. Looking at little old New South Wales, Service New South Wales. So, I realised that what we achieved, was actually quite good. I triple emphasise we. Sure, I was there, but it was an amazing team. It was a great period.
I think I'd just correct you and say not quite good. I think it was excellent.
Yeah, it was.
It was excellence plus.
I was very proud of the team.
Yeah.
They to this day, I'm so grateful for what they did.
I mean, for the little I know that other states and other jurisdictions were knocking on the door, it's a bit hard for that to actually be shouting from the rooftops, because that actually causes a lot more challenges in the political sense.
You're right. But globally, people have been saying, how did you do what you did? So there was some secret sauce there.
So what would you say you're recognised or known for today as a brand?
Yes, service transformation. I tried to pivot away from digital transformation because I don't like that. It's about service transformation in the digital age. Digital is a tool, but it's government, for example, must have omni-channel approaches. There will be people like my mum that are not comfortable with digital, right? So we provide physical channels for them, a physical front door, a store, or they feel comfortable on the phone, whatever the case. Like, if it's digital transformation, I feel uncomfortable. With service transformation, I like to think I'm there.
If you talk about yourself today as digital transformation per se, that's what you're reputed to be executing or being involved in.
Yes.
But what about yourself? I mean, you can't say, are you a transformational expert? How do you craft that sort of positioning for your own self, for Victor Dominello? Because the transformational activities is what you do, but it's who you are is more what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the values.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go back to why, what's the massive transformational purpose here? It's to use data, digital tech to profoundly reduce suffering and improve quality of life. That's what drives me in a deep, deep way.
Yeah.
I don't look at a service just for, I want to get rid of the noise and improve efficiency. Of course I want to do all that. But why? For example, if somebody's lost a loved one and they've got 100 forms that they've got to complete, and then after that there's a bank saying, fill out this form because we've got to, it's called process trauma. They're already going through grief, and then we keep reminding them in their face, fill out this form, and 6 months later, oh, by the way, we need a death certificate. Like, there is trauma attached to that. So, sure, we can tidy up the back end, but why? Some people say, oh, because it's productivity. No. We're doing it because it is the civil, humane thing to do to get rid of suffering from people's lives as much as humanly possible. Hopefully they are the values that really drive what I and a lot of other people on a mission are trying to achieve in the evolution of government services.
So what is your earliest recollection of really building or understanding reputation and really articulating it? You've articulated beautifully today, but what is your earliest recollection of the importance of reputation to you and to others?
When I was a lawyer.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, I was a lawyer for 15 years before going into politics, and my mum and dad, rightfully so, they come from a poor Italian peasant background in Italy, and, seeing their son become a lawyer, like, they were really proud as punch.
Yeah.
And I adore my parents. If I did anything wrong because it's not my name, I'm carrying my family name.
Yeah.
So my reputation, in brackets, brand, was so important, not for me, but for my family, because I just honour and respect my parents so much. So that was so ingrained in me.
Was there an incident or an example where it sort of became so that it was just a blinding flash of the obvious, and a moment in time you go, wow, that's so important, that you misstepped or something that you really...
in politics.
But before that in growing up, that sort of opened that door to you recognising how important the family name was and the reputation component?
Not so much in the law.
But growing up?
Not even... Like when I was a kid, you get picked on for being Italian or wog and all that stuff. But, a lot of us have gone through that journey.
Yeah, sure.
But in many ways, I shunned my Italian heritage when I was growing up.
Sure.
I was going to brand and marketing and all that. Like, I was embarrassed of my brand growing up, because here I was going to school, and I'll never forget when I was a kid, Mum and Dad were smart enough to teach me, just speak to me in Italian. And so when I went to primary school, because they wanted me to be bilingual, when I went to primary school, I'd speak with a bit of an accent, even though I was born in Ryde Hospital and didn't put a foot on Italian soil. So I get teased, and being a young kid, you don't like getting teased. So I'd go home to Mum and Dad, and they'd speak to me in Italian, and they reminded me of this. And all you would say, son, is me no understand. I refused to speak or listen to Italian. I was so stubborn because I was embarrassed or ashamed of my brand or my skin. I didn't want to spend too much time in the sun because I'd come to school really brown, right? So it took a while for me to sort of own my skin, as it were. And so I guess that sort of shaped me. So when I was mature enough to appreciate, this is something that adds value, having that diversity. I should be proud of being Italian heritage and being Australian as well. I'm blessed. I've got two. Then it fortified my position. It was only really in politics that I saw what the ugly side of that could have been.
Yeah. Well, that would test you, to say the least.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, because your name appears on the paper. This guy's an X or a Y, or particularly when I was trying to push through even the digital identity reforms. Some of the language around that. It was pretty tough, but by that stage, I'd built up enough. How should we say? Scar tissue or calluses to think that's all right. My values are good. My heart's in the right place, and I know our North Star here. So I was fine to get through that. But initially, I was horrified. But if there was a negative piece in the press or anything, just mortified.
Yeah, it's hard to take sometimes when it goes against your values, your grain, and
terrible.
It's a really challenging perspective.
Yeah.
And you're in an interesting position because you built up this strength of recognition and reputation in the digital space. And yet the digital space is a place where people's reputations can be destroyed overnight.
So quickly.
And it really is something you have to take control of and own. And AI is another example where it can actually determine your reputation if you are not able to put stakes in the ground. Is that something you've really given a lot of consideration to?
Not on my journey, in the sense that, I didn't have a blueprint for any of this. I just focused on the policy, just focused on trying to get the right outcomes. And then things just fell into place. So, for example, I've got a reasonable following on LinkedIn. I'm so lucky. I've got a great, we have got a great tribe. A lot of people comment, and I read all the comments and learn a lot from it. But the genesis of all that is I was struggling to get stories up in the mainstream, because when you're doing, changing a form into a digital and seamless. that doesn't appear on the front page.
No.
It doesn't.
It's pretty boring stuff, really, isn't it?
It's boring stuff, and not many people are interested. And maybe I'll get a little column on the article, page 9 of the Herald if I'm lucky. And you go to all this effort to try and build this thing up, and you're lucky to get 1 in 10 stories up. And I thought, there's so much reform I'm trying to get out. So I just started talking about all this stuff on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like people saying, yeah, keep going. I hate these things as well. I keep going. And then all of a sudden, after a while, that brand, and then I had media ringing me up saying, I saw your post on LinkedIn.
That's right.
And then I realised there was a turning point there. Wow. When I say we, we've got a brand here about what we're doing inside of government.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was a turning point.
It's a really interesting perspective because communities and individuals see the value, but the large conglomerates, corporates, media corporates are not interested because all they want to do is sell the next paper.
Yeah, spot on.
And that story's not really interesting. It's not going to act. It's a good news story, but not for them. It's for the community that's good.
Oh, it's a great news story if there is a data breach or something like that. It's great. But getting rid of a clunky, terrible process or digitising a driver's license or whatever it is, no, that's just keep doing what you're doing and we'll call you if we need you. But for the average person out there, it actually, wow, this is going to change my life. You mean I've got a digital driver's license? Does that mean I don't have to carry my leather wallet anymore, my leather purse? Yeah. Does that mean every time I lose my plastic license, I'm in a world of pain to get it? No, you can't physically lose a digital driver's license. You know what I mean? So, when there was an Optus breach, if you had your license compromised and you didn't have a digital one, you'd be waiting months and months and months to get a new one out.
Absolutely.
But if you had a digital one, in 90 seconds it'd be refreshed.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's a great story, but they are not stories the media is interested in.
No.
But community is.
Very much so.
Yeah.
A question more as a side question on one of the challenges in IT is trying to maintain integrity, the value proposition, but also values to ensure that human usage of technology aligns with values.
Definitely.
Is that something that you spent a lot of time thinking about how in fact it would translate and how it could be protected, number one? And number two, having operators who are overseeing that, you're talking presumably about thousands of people who are not the users but the administrators and those protecting the integrity. How did you sort of ensure those values were maintained and guardrailed?
Yeah, so I did think about it from a cyber perspective and a privacy, but my thinking definitely evolved. And the COVID pandemic helped the evolution of my thoughts on that from 2 points of view. First, it gave me time to think. Before COVID, I was out 4 or 5 nights a week at functions.
Yep.
During COVID, you weren't going out.
Sure.
So I was spending the time researching what other jurisdictions are doing. I had time to read books from Yuval Harari, where he was my favourite dystopian, saying these are all the red flags.
Yeah.
Had time to watch documentaries like Coded Bias about AI, and in addition to reading stuff from Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis about all the good stuff. So I had time to think. The second thing it taught me was as we were running at pace, I made some mistakes along the way because, for example, we had that data breach.
Yep.
Sure, if we had benefit of hindsight and time, it would have been fixed. It didn't. There was a problem. I had to own it, but more importantly, I had to make sure that that if it happened again, we had a resilience play, because resilience is a big part of trust. There was an issue in relation to COVID check-ins. I was saying you can check in with your phone. great, but what if you didn't have a phone like my mum? My mum said, hey, son, all my friends have downloaded the Service, COVID check-in app, and it's so much easier than writing on a bit of paper. Can you download this for me? I said, sure, Mum, I'm the Minister for Digital. I can do this for you. Give me your phone. It was an old phone. So I couldn't even read the damn thing. And I realised then in my haste, I've left behind forget the fact that she's my mum, most important person, I left behind a critical component of the community that actually needed the assistance. So that reminded me, inclusion is not a bolt-on, it's part of design thinking.
Absolutely.
So, and then there's, so I created this framework from all my lessons learnt, all the failures and, about what trust and being trustworthy is. And I've called it SPRITE, like as in agile. Security, privacy, resilience, because you're going to have to assume that you're going to fail. How quickly can you get people back? Resilience, inclusion.
Inclusion,
transparency, and ethics. So ethics,
absolute.
Critical, right? So, what is the SPRITE prism on all the digital service delivery? Because when it comes to digital, there are three things in my mind. One is identity. Like, sure, I know you, known you for years, you're my neighbour, shake hands, look you in the eye. But who's your neighbour in the digital world? Like, there's no borders.
No.
So the first thing to do is I need to trust who you are. So that's identity. Then I need to trust what you can do. So it's the who and the what. Like, you're authorised to drive a car. You're authorised to, do electrical work in my house. You're authorised to work with kids. You're authorised to move between ports. All of these are credentials. Are they verifiable to source? So that's the what. But then so it's the who, the what, and the why. The why is, why do I trust you? What makes you trustworthy?
Yeah.
And they are the SPRITE things. So they were the things that I really focused on those digital service channels.
And that SPRITE concept is something you use?
In the Future Government Institute.
Okay, all right.
Because again, people say, oh, well.
It's a great model.
Well,
But you don't hear a lot about it.
No, but it's just a whole lot of, a collection of my
common
failures.
sense.
Yeah, common sense. But, these are the things I've learnt. Because, again, initially I started, everything's going to be privacy, security, inclusion, transparency. And everyone, I thought, no, this is the strong suite.
It's critical, huh?
Yeah, it's critical.
So is SPRITE something that is can cross borders? So, for example, you're working in Mongolia and you're doing some work for the World Bank. Every country, every culture, every organisation, every community's got a different set of values and a different mindset.
Sure.
How does that migrate? And how do you migrate your perspective on the way you operate as opposed to what might be different in another culture, such as Mongolia?
Sure, but Mongolia is a democracy. It's a parliamentary democracy. It's a very young one.
Okay.
But I understand the proposition you're putting forward. Look, ultimately, even if you're in a benevolent dictatorship, you still want people to like you. Every politician has a pretty sizable ego, and they like to be loved. Yeah. So if you provide great services and you're loved and trusted, then that's a good thing. It's rather than putting a gun to somebody's head and saying, you must love me. It's up to the government as they see fit. But for Westminster and Washminster democracies, I don't see how you get around the trust, the SPRITE principles. If they're not embedded in, and again, you might have different ethical prisms in relation to, rights around children and social media, right? That will get debated. But ultimately, you're going to have to apply all your service channels through those lenses to build trust, in my humble opinion.
And that goes, not talking about the way in which a country's organised, whether it's democratic or dictatorship, etc. But in terms of the way you actually work with those communities,
Yes.
they're fairly similar? Or have you been challenged in terms of any jurisdiction where the values are quite different?
Like, for example, I haven't done any work with Singapore, but I know that Singapore is a far more compliant country than, say,
Absolutely.
How should we say, a very
Another
robust democracy in, say, New South Wales or Australia.
Yeah.
People there, and I think it's fair to say, over in Singapore, there's a lot more trust in government because they are very almost administrative based. Again, there are different flavours and nuances, but ultimately, whether you're in Singapore or you're in Australia, like, you want adoption. Ultimately, you can have tech, you can have a service on the shelf, but if no one's using it, what's the value?
But are the tolerances different with technology and with social media and things of that nature in different countries? So
yeah, definitely.
And so that's a bit of a challenge, isn't it?
It is. Like, for example, I've been to America a number of times now. In America, they just don't have trust in government to the level it needs to be. So, for example, I was out there saying, well, just look what we did in New South Wales. We did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The amount of times people said to me, why is government doing this? Get out of our way. Government should be doing it. I'm thinking, well, government has to be involved in a driver's license. Sure. It has to be involved in a birth certificate. Like, there are some things government has to be involved in. The lens over there, or the focus is definitely different.
Victor, we've had quite some discussion on values and things of this nature. Is there an occasion, an event, a time when your values were tested, that you had to really make a decision based on values where you had to walk away, or that you had to turn in a different direction?
The most recent one would have been the poker machine, the cashless gaming reform. I was the minister responsible for basically pubs and clubs, and there was a real challenge in relation to problem gambling and money laundering through the pokies. It's a cancer on New South Wales. It's just a terrible thing. Anyway, so the industry, they make a lot of money out of it. They didn't like it, and they wanted to water everything down. And I said, no. Here's the solution. I even had the advocates out there saying, yep, we back in this solution around cashless gaming, because again, if we go to a cashless model, you're able to have more, help those in greater need. And again, when you get people like Tim Costello backing it in, Wesley Mission backing it in, New South Wales Council of Social Services backing it, like, I had all the angels, as it were, backing it in, but I had the massive machinery of the industry saying no. That was tough. That was really, really tough.
And in government, I'm quite sure that happens all the time.
Oh, look, I think they're like the National Rifles Association in America, the NRA. Like, they are the most powerful, and it crosses the political divide. Like, they are very powerful in blue team and red team.
You've been successful in so many different aspects of our society, in different government ministerial roles, etc. What is your leadership style, and how have you used that to really achieve what you have achieved to date?
I'd like to think that leadership style is about empowerment. So I can only achieve because I'm part of a great team. I stand on the shoulders of giants. There's no doubt about that. And the longer I've been in leadership roles, the more I realise that when you're a leader, when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, you get to stand pretty high up in the mountain. So you get to see what others don't get to see, i.e. you get to see where the blue skies are and where the storm clouds are. So you have a responsibility to set the vision, to say, this is the blue sky, we need to go here, because I can see things that you just can't see. So I think that's the number one thing to do. But that means you don't go into micromanagement. There's a very big difference between you being a leader and being a manager. So one of the things I did to my team is I trusted them so much, and they repaid it back to me in spades. And I'd say, look, I trust you. Like, make the decision, make the call. I'll say, if there's a problem, always come back to me. Otherwise, this is the blue sky. This is where we need to go. Now, please go and do it. So I thought empowering others to make decisions and to lead in their own right, I think is critical. And then having a servant leadership framework. And I really believe that. Like, ultimately, leaders are great servants.
As we were talking about earlier, to build good, solid relationships, you've got to have that service mentality of humanity.
Absolutely. I am here as a gift. Not to serve me, to serve you.
Absolutely right.
And I believe that in my bones.
So how did you develop that mentality and that leadership style? Where did that come from?
I think it was, again, the formation really early on in the piece, through my schooling and through my parents. One of my pet dislikes is bombastic, arrogant. I really, that just rubs me up the wrong way. I just find so much strength in humility. And, so I try and channel that where I can. It's hard, but it's, because sometimes you have to get out there and talk the talk and walk the walk and be a bit of the poster child for whatever the reform is. But, ultimately, I just want to see the job done.
So what are some of the leadership values that you've taken with you on your journey to where you are today? The values, integrity is really important. Trust, just hyper important in this age. And being authentic. I see so often people try to be someone that they're not. And most people are smart enough to see through that. So I think being yourself and just owning your own skin. Like, for example, I remember recently doing a social media post saying, I was never school captain. I wasn't even captain of the football team, not even the debating team. I think I got to school council at best. I wasn't seen as a leader at school. I was pretty ordinary, to be honest. But, when the opportunities arose, I took them graciously. And being raw about that, like, basically I was saying I wasn't much at school. That's not nice to say about yourself, you know what I mean? I was pretty average. But, like, guess what? When the opportunity for leadership arose, I took it with both hands. But that's, I think, is us trying to be authentic to your real story. Absolutely. Not
sugarcoating it, not this was a Hollywood story. No, because that's not real. The reality was it was tough. There were way, way better leaders than me when I was growing up. But, you learn along the way.
As you know, this podcast has been rebranded Astute Leadership. And in my view, you certainly fit that criteria.
Thanks, mate.
But I'd like to understand some of the skills and traits that have allowed you to be an astute leader.
I'll give you two. There's so many, but I'll give you two. The first is to have an open mind. A leader that knows everything knows nothing, and is going to fail. And the amount of times I've seen leaders that you walk into a room, I know what I'm doing. Okay, that's a closed mindset. We're in a world of trouble.
Absolutely.
And the second, and it's really the other side of the same coin, is to listen. To give people, to respect people. Don't worry about making a million friends. Just don't make enemies. Just treat people with respect. They might have a different view to you. If you respect people, they'll respect you back.
Absolutely.
So, listen, have a learning mindset. We're pupils at school, we're students for life. If you keep wanting to learn, then in order to learn, you must listen and respectfully listen. You might have a different view. You might say, well, okay, I've listened to it all. I've got to make a considered view. This is where I think the blue sky is. That's leadership, right? You make a call. But if you do that, I think that encourages the team that you're an inclusive leader.
Yeah.
You're not a dictator.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Such wonderful insights.
Well, things I've learned along the way.
I like to think that a leader leads, they don't need to be loved.
Yeah, agree.
And those sort of things make a difference in terms of your mindset as well.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. You have to make some tough calls, but if you make them respectfully, then that's okay, because that same person that you disagree with today, may you agree with them the next day and will be a supporter. So don't burn too many bridges along the way.
Absolutely.
And again, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone. Just don't be disrespectful.
So you've had a wonderful pathway and a journey so far. You've obviously done it with great passion and commitment. Are there any mentors that have helped you on your journey to make that impact that has allowed you to get to where you are today? Yeah,
my biggest mentor and my best friend in many ways, in every way really, is Gladys Berejiklian.
Yeah.
Glad she encouraged me to get into politics in the first place.
Yeah.
She's one of the most humble, hardworking, considerate people I've ever met. I would hate to be Premier. It's the worst job.
Yeah.
It's just, people are ringing you up all the time, whinging about everything. You got backbenchers saying, I want to be a minister. Everyone's on your tail. And Glad it's like holding hands. She had to hold a lot of people's hands.
Yeah.
So I would rarely call Glad when she was Premier, because I knew how busy she was.
Yep.
She would be the one reaching out to me to check in on me. I'm thinking, Glad, you don't need to worry about me. Worry about you and everybody else that's trying to, but she's I just thought, wow, what an incredible human being she is. Yeah, I learned a lot from Glad. Love her dearly.
Pretty good mentor to have.
Oh, she's amazing.
What she was able to achieve in her career.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
And she will go down as one of the iconic premiers of this state.
The metro, if you're catching public transport and you're on the metro or a lot of the trains, she had transport. It's one of the worst portfolios. She had transport opposition. She then had transport in government. She then went to treasuries where she backed all these big metro projects in. And then as Premier, she pushed teamwork, a lot of other players involved. But my God, she's been instrumental in that. She's reshaped Sydney in that sense.
Absolutely. New South Wales.
Yeah, in New South Wales.
Very much so.
Yeah, very much.
Victor, we could probably talk for
a long time, particularly about Glad. I love Glad.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've learned so much just sitting here talking to you, and as I said at the beginning, so privileged to have the opportunity to talk with you on so many different topics.
The honour's mine, mate.
Thank you so much, and I wish you much success in your journey, because you've got a long way to go.
Okay, thanks, Garry.
Thank you again.
Good on you, my friend. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star review and subscribe for more episodes. And if you'd like to learn more about developing your personal brand, please visit garrybrowne.com.au to get in touch or grab a copy of Brand New, Brand You.